Yo guys, welcome to the last lap. Don't forget to drop a lovely, juicy 5-star rating if you're watching on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Hope you enjoy, and let's get into it. You've also had 3 wins for Max, 2 wins for Checo, so they've taken points off of each other to an extent. Obviously, 7 between 1 and 2, and then only 3 between 2 and 3. So, yeah, I said, at the start of the season, I was like, if I had to choose, who's going to challenge Max? Is it Checo in the same car, or is it another car, particularly Fernando in Aston Martin? Right now, I mean, it's looked really good for Max this race. We've got the ATR that Aston Martin have got plenty up until the end of June, I think it is.
Yes.
If Alonso can keep picking up P3s and the Red Bulls can keep swapping,
taking points off each other.
Just winning the championship, is that what you're saying?
like what's more likely, do we think? Perez to challenge Max or Fernando to challenge?
You know, that's how he almost won in 2012. He wasn't there, and he it was he put in those consistent results
people
while
taking points off each other.
See, this is the thing. It's then kind of asking the question, using Miami as the example of like the gap. Do you think after the wind tunnel reductions coming through and when the upgrades come in, do you think the rest of the field, excluding Red Bull, do you think they will make up that 20 seconds worth in terms of upgrades?
So much. It's not just like 5 seconds or like 10 seconds.
That's the thing for me. That's why I'm
much.
that's why I'm very hesitant to think I think there will be some upgrades, but I don't think it's going to bridge that gap of 20 seconds or so. And with the argument of like who's going to be sort of challenging Max, is it going to be Alonso in another team or Perez? I don't think there's going to be any challenge at all. I would love for there to be one from.
But if.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think. I don't think Perez.
Was
Yeah, I just don't think Perez has got the. I don't think Perez has got it. So
if anyone can take a car and perform at its ceiling so consistently, it's Fernando Alonso. Because it doesn't matter, top team, bottom team, wherever he's been, Fernando's always ragged the neck out of any car that he's been given. And I just think that if there is any hope, and again, it's on Aston Martin, but we know that they do, with Dan Fallows and all of this experience and all these people they've brought in, they are potentially the closest to Red Bull's philosophy. I just feel like if they can, if anyone can, it's Aston Martin. But are we asking?
But the fact that we're even talking about Aston Martin,
because it's not just Aston Martin; it's Aston Martin with Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, no. But the fact that we're even talking about, Aston Martin, if we were going to look at them where they were last year, right? The fact we're even talking about Fernando Alonso comfortably getting a P3 this season is mad. And to then even go even further than that to be like, okay, he could close the bridge to Red Bull. I don't doubt Aston Martin's ability. I just don't think that's going to be 20 seconds worth. Like they're going to find an upgrade to fix that.
It's about 0.5%, isn't it? Red Bull are ahead, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you magnify that over a 50,
but I just think because it's not upgrades you can really do with like the engine and such. It's more kind of like the actual aerodynamics.
Oh yeah, it's aware. Yeah,
but I don't think you're then going to find something which is going to bridge that over a 1 lap pace.
But I'm just like, it just takes what Fernando's about 30 points behind Checo right now, who's about 14 behind Max. It's a couple of DNFs. I'm not being funny. Like if Fernando can keep plugging in, I mean, he almost got P3 in Baku, didn't he? Because he was only he was within a second of Charles. It could have been 5 P3s in a row.
Yeah.
Like I just think that I've been so impressed with the way that Fernando's just jumped in and just seemingly pushed this team, like helped take this team and push it forward. Because Lance is not a bad driver, but Lance hasn't been delivering anywhere near the performances that Fernando has, which I don't think is a surprise to anyone.
It's weird. It's like he should injure his wrist again, because I feel like he was better at the start. Now he's fully fit.
Maybe.
But also, we've got to remember, this is us seeing Lance Stroll
very Garrett
in his
behaviour,
fully dedicated.
Let's say that we'll get him on pitch side.
This season is when we're meant to be seeing Lance Stroll at his fully dedicated most, because he's written into his own contract with Aston Martin to not do media, to be fully focused on.
Has he?
Mm-hmm. So
wait, say it again. So
Lance so that's why he's not doing much media stuff outside of that's why you always see Fernando Alonso doing all the TikToks and stuff like that. It's because Lance Stroll doesn't want to do all the media extra bits into it. That's why you're not seeing him across socials or doing most stuff with like with F1.
But do we know why his?
Yeah, it's because he's focusing on his season to be as good as he can be because he thought it might be a bit of a distraction or something. And this is us trying to see him at his best, and it's clearly just not good enough. And I mean, we've always thought that anyway, but then that's the reason why it always goes back to him being from like, oh, he's from a rich family, that's how he's got into the sport, and it's a whole conversation around that. But ultimately, yeah, that's where it breaks down to. But so when do you think we're going to actually start to see then this change with the teams of like, the wind tunnel sort of upgrades? When do you think we're going to actually start to see that drop off?
I feel like genuinely you're not going to see like the actual full effects of it till like 2/3 of the way into the season.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because by the time the development's happened and by the time you've actually slapped it on the car, you've produced it, I feel like you're not going to see the results until that sort of time in the season.
It also depends on how efficient you are with that time. Because if you're a team that, typically, Aston Martin typically, when they were Racing Point, when they were Force India, they got the most out of, very little resources. And you can probably hopefully expect the same with a better, lineup in terms of like their engineers and, the current infrastructure they have in place and the infrastructure that's also coming. But Red Bull they've proved that they could extend the gap, even having the limited testing restrictions already, not the limitations they have now from the penalty, but just from finishing first in the constructors, they still managed to pull away. So clearly they're the most efficient team with that time. How can we expect that,
Yeah, just because you spend more time on something doesn't mean it's going to be better.
Exactly.
Than and that kind
Yeah, you look at other teams that you got McLaren, who
prime example, McLaren,
who have got all the resources you can think of. They've got a brilliant facility, and it's just been the wrong people to design the car. Effectively, that's what it is. Because you've got everything they need there.
They've got two of the most exciting drivers.
Yeah,
like if Piastri lives up to
who are probably the most adaptable, because you've got Lando Norris, who has only ever driven a McLaren F1 car. So that's all he knows of. You've got a brand new Oscar Piastri, who is trying to adapt his driving style to being an F1 car. Again, that's the only one he's properly really driven. I know he's done some stuff with the Alpines, but that's the one he's done at pure racing pace. And so you've got two drivers there who can really help adapt to it. And obviously Lando's just trying to lead a bit more for like how the car's feeling in terms of progressing it forwards. But when you've got all that infrastructure there for kind of a new team, you're then needing the backup of like your engineers and your aerodynamicists and whomever it might be to put it in the right direction. Unfortunately, it's failed. The same with like Mercedes. That's where they've gone for a different like look and style of how they think the car's going to work, and it's not playing on their favour.
Both teams have made changes. Obviously, you've got Allison coming in now at Mercedes to kind of take back his old role that he had, and then Stella's come in and not the goalie, not the Liverpool goalkeeper. And you got it.
So I said it so quietly.
I
didn't know if you'd think. I was just like, oh, maybe.
That's a football one.
And then it's a football one. Well done, man. You're learning.
I'm learning.
But then also, obviously, McLaren with Stella and Sanchez coming in and all that restructuring. So I guess at least both, because I would say those two teams, Ferrari are kind of used to them disappointing a bit, but also at least they can put it on pole. At least they've got pace somewhere.
Yeah. I just track dependent, isn't it? It's with them.
I mean, only on Saturdays. They don't turn up on a Sunday.
Maybe they should have come together as McLaren. They should have just pulled resources, just McLaren, Mercedes, bring them together.
Yeah. One big
back in the day,
team,
just make one team.
No, Scuderia and McLaren.
Well, technically, they've already done a transfer because that's what happened in Formula E. McLaren brought the Mercedes team because Mercedes were pulling out, and so they just brought all the employees and all the resources and just moved factories. Literally just crossed over in Milton Keynes, basically. So
True. Yeah.
That's it.
God, I couldn't even get out of Milton Keynes. That's sad, man.